Ever wonder why some ideas stick around forever and others just disappear? It feels like we're living in a world that's designed to forget. Well, today we're going to figure out why. We're diving deep into what it takes to create a signal that lasts.
Okay, this quote right here, this is the key to everything we're talking about today. It suggests that being remembered isn't about who's the loudest. It's about who has the best structure. Seriously, if you get this one idea, you'll unlock the rest of what we're about to explore.
So to really get this, we're going to have to jump in a time machine. Let's head back to 1901. There was this one moment that completely changed how we communicate, and it showed us the secret sauce for how signals survive.
All right, picture this. It's December 12th, 1901. Guglielmo Marconi is huddled in this freezing, drafty room in Newfoundland. The wind is just screaming outside. And he's got this one simple piece of gear and a question that everyone, and I mean everyone, thought was insane. Could a signal actually travel across the entire Atlantic Ocean with no wires?
And you've got to understand, the doubt he was facing was just immense. I mean, the scientific community was basically laughing at him. They said, no way, the curve of the Earth will block it. The engineers were convinced the atmosphere would just swallow the signal whole. And as investors, they told him flat out it was impossible. The deck was completely, totally stacked against him.
And just think about the sheer scale of this thing. We're talking 2,100 miles. That's from Cornwall, England, all the way across the Atlantic to Newfoundland. For a wireless signal back then, that was basically science fiction, an absolutely unimaginable distance.
So, Marconi's there, pressing the receiver to his ear, probably holding his breath, and then he hears it. 3 little clicks. So faint. Dot, dot, dot. The letter S in Morse code. It worked. The impossible had just become possible. The signal made it.
So this leads to the big question, right? How? How on earth did that little signal survive that massive distance, all the interference, and a world full of experts saying it would fail? Did he just make it louder?
Well, the answer is a big no. It wasn't about being loud. Not at all. It survived because it was structurally sound. See, Marconi didn't just crank up the volume and hope for the best. He engineered a whole system. It had clarity, a very specific frequency, and a structure that could be repeated. That is what let it endure. And this right here, this is the whole point.
Okay, so let's fast forward 100+ years to today, because that exact same challenge that Marconi faced, it's happening all over again. But the ocean isn't the Atlantic anymore. No, it's the huge, complicated ocean of AI memory. Think about it. Marconi had to build a signal that could cross a real physical ocean. Today, all of us, businesses, creators, you name it, we have to build a signal that can survive inside an AI's brain. A brain that's constantly filtering and forgetting things. It's the exact same problem, just in a brand new arena. And here's why that's so tricky. These AI systems, they're not just passive listeners, okay? They're not empty buckets you can just pour information into. They are active evaluators. They're looking at the structure of things. They don't remember something because it's clever or super creative. They remember it because it's clear, because it's consistent, and because a machine can actually read it. Everything else? It just gets filtered out as noise. So, if AI is always filtering, how in the world do you build a signal that it actually decides to hang on to? Well, there's a term for this, a solution. It's called Semantic Endurance, and really, it's the modern blueprint for being remembered.
Let's unpack that a little bit. Semantic endurance. It doesn't just happen by accident, It's something you engineer. It's a deliberate choice. You're building your identity with such crystal clear structure and consistent language that AI systems don't just see it, they trust it. They can recall it. And they'll even cite it over and over again.
So what does that actually look like? What does an AI want to remember? Well, it's pretty simple, really. It remembers things that are easy for it to process. Stuff like clearly defined concepts, information that's always structured the same way, and ideas that don't change their meaning. It's looking for those signals that get reinforced again and again with an identity it can actually read. Ambiguity? Forget about it. An AI just can't deal with it.
Okay, so we get what semantic endurance is. The next logical question is, how do you build it? Thankfully, we can break it all down into a pretty straightforward 3-layer framework. This is how you engineer permanence.
It all starts with layer 1, the foundation, structural clarity. What this means is your identity, who you are, what you do, has to be defined so clearly that a machine can understand it. See, an AI trusts hard data and structure way more than it trusts a fluffy narrative. So let's say you're a freelance designer.
You can't just say you make great visuals. No, you have to consistently define yourself as, say, interactive UX for fintech, and you use that exact phrase on your website, your social profiles, literally everywhere.
All right, once you have that clear foundation, you build on it with layer 2, frequency consistency. And listen, this is a really important point. Just repeating yourself over and over, that's just noise. But repeating yourself with the same structure, now that's different. Using the exact same definitions, the same frameworks, the same language everywhere, that is what builds endurance. It's that consistency that locks your identity into the AI's memory.
And that brings us to the top layer, layer 3, machine trust. This is the end game. It's what you get when you nail the first 2 layers. Because when an AI sees your super clear signal, reinforced consistently across the board, it eventually stops questioning you. It just accepts your signal as truth. It starts to trust you. And even better, it starts to cite you. At that point, you've become an authority.
So, we've gone from a windy coast in 1901 to the inner workings of AI today. We've talked about the challenge, and we have a framework. Now, let's get practical. Let's talk about what you can actually do to start building your own unforgettable signal.
It really boils down to 4 steps. First, you've got to audit your signal. Take a hard look at how AI sees you right now. Second, define your discipline with absolute clarity. Give it a name and then own that name. Third, you reinforce that definition everywhere. I'm talking everywhere, using the exact same words. And finally, number 4, every single thing you put out into the world needs to be distributed with one goal in mind, strengthening that core signal.
At the end of the day, this whole journey is about one big transformation. It's about making a conscious choice to stop making random noise and to start engineering a signal that's clear and consistent. It's the difference between being a flash in the pan and becoming a permanent part of the conversation.
So, I'll leave you with this to think about. In a world that's being run more and more by AI, where AI is basically the librarian for the entire planet, is your signal, your identity, your brand, your ideas, is it actually built to be remembered? Or is it just at risk of vanishing into the noise?